The weather in front of us is questionable. We're not sure what it's made of, but it doesn't look very good. So we're looking for a place to stop for the night, some picnic area, something. So we keep driving. It's 6 o'clock at night, so we've got about an hour before we really need to stop. Then it's gonna get dark. After leaving the municipal campground in Cachi, we are back on Route 40, which is still not paved for another 160 kilometers, an estimated 4 hours driving time. But we're not going that far yet. The mountains are calling, and it's a call too strong for us to ignore. So we're heading west into the mountains again.
Turn left. Recalculating the route.
As nice as it was to enjoy the comfort and convenience of the campground in Cachi, it is equally nice to be back in nature with the fresh air, the wildlife, and the solitude. Once back on Route 40, we are within a short distance of the small town of Molinos and its historical monument, the Church of San Pedro Nolasco. It is estimated to date back to the late 18th century. About 70 kilometers before reaching the town of Cafajate, we drive across the Quebrada de las Flechas, an iconic attraction along Route 40. A while later, we make another stop just out of curiosity. After a week of driving exclusively on dirt roads and at high altitude, we went from one province to another and back to the first one, and now we reach the pavement again. But our adventure is not over yet, so stay tuned and the trip continues because we're still far away from home, and we have a number of interesting detours along the way before we reach Mendoza again. After we reconnected with the pavement, we drove through the town of Cafajate. We were hoping to spend the night in the municipal campground, but it turned out that all the campgrounds the few campgrounds are all closed. So no luck there. So we got diesel, we bought bread, and we're continuing on Ruta 40, which is now paved. The weather in front of us is questionable. We're not sure what it's made of, but it doesn't look very good. So we're looking for a place to stop for the night, some picnic area, something. Well, we saw the sign to the ruins of Kilmes, which are fairly well known, and we thought, well, ruins, there must be a parking lot where we can stop. So we took the road, which is 5 kilometers off the Ruta 40, the main road, and on the way we saw this place here under the trees that looks quite nice, and we decided to stop here. The sky remains threatening with low clouds, but nothing happened so far, so we had a restful night here under these old twisted trees.
I did check the iOverlander offline global database of campsites. This particular site is listed and it has good comments and reviews, so we felt safe staying here. Like every other night, I transmitted our GPS position to our list of family members and friends using our Spot satellite messenger. This morning we're going to have breakfast and then break camp, load the truck again, and drive the remaining 5 kilometers to the archaeological site to see if it's open and if we can visit. The archaeological site of Kilmes is the ruins of a large city with 9 to 10,000 inhabitants. The people of Kilmes are believed to have walked from Chile over the Andes looking for a site to establish themselves. The city was surrounded by a stone wall, which we will see better once we start hiking up the hill. Outside the walls, the Kilmes raised cattle and grew grains and vegetables and other food for their sustenance. Inside the walls, they had their houses. The walls that we see today are only the upper part of the original walls. The soil would have to be dug and a lot of it removed to reach the floor. But this would make the walls unstable, and because they're on a slope and the climate nowadays is very different from what it was back then, the erosion would probably destroy what's left of the ruins. The Kilmes first appeared in the area about 400 years before Christ, and they thrived here peacefully and harmoniously with nature and with their neighbors until the arrival of the Incas in the 1400s, more or less. Their biggest enemy was the Spaniards, who came here in the 1500s and more or less exterminated them. What attracted the Kilmes' enemy in the area was the hills that contain a wide variety of valuable minerals, all kinds of metals, but also gold. We left the ruins of Kilmes at lunchtime. It is now 8 p.m. and we just arrived at our planned destination, which is another archaeological site. We found a flat spot just beside the road above the dry riverbed. So we are gonna stay here and tomorrow visit the archaeological site. The Walco people started using the site about 1,000 years before Christ, so before the site of Kilmes. They were a different people. They didn't mind adapting to the new cultures that came to the area, so they were not exterminated in the same way as the Kilmes. Also, the hills where they are located were not as rich in valuable minerals as the hills where the Kilmes were, so the Spaniards and the Incas were not as interested in them anyways and kind of left them alone. The site is also located by what they call the quebrada, a sort of narrow canyon that is absolutely stunning. This is a nice spot for us to crack open a can of beer and watch the sunset, have a little bite to eat, and hopefully we'll have a quiet night here. Monday morning in a small town, Argentina. We're in Villa Union, and we're just looking for a place to buy food. Because in the last couple of days we've been mostly in small villages, so we did find the basics, but today we'd like to top up our food and water supply again. We stopped for lunch in the small town of San Jose de Hachal. Excuse my pronunciation, it's probably off a little bit. We're back in the province of San Juan, north of the province of Mendoza. But our adventure is not over yet. We have some interesting stops planned off-road again this afternoon. In the meantime, here we are stopped in the gas station, where I topped up the diesel tank and we're going to go inside the coffee shop of the gas station so we can have a coffee after lunch, and also check our emails and messages, because it's been quite a while. It is about 3 in the afternoon and we have arrived at our planned destination for tonight, the small remote municipal campground of the hamlet of Huerta de Huachi. Huerta is a small garden where people grow vegetables and stuff, so that gives you an idea of the size of the hamlet. But we do have company in this cute little campground. There's a stream going through, and chickens and goats and all kinds of birds, a rooster or two. So we're not alone, and we do have power. There's electricity. We have decided to continue towards our next wild camp this morning. We have a little over 100 kilometers of mountain track to cover. After the hamlet of Walco, we must have taken a wrong turn, or at least followed a trail that looked more traveled than the one we were supposed to be on. After a while we were so far off course, we decided to take a side track that is marked on the GPS. We finally reconnected with the main track, but it didn't look traveled at all. Like it's very faint in places, and the weather is threatening. We could see rain clouds in the distance touching the ground. We had so much distance to cover in uncertain weather that we decided it wasn't safe, so we made the decision to turn around, retrace our steps. We are now stopped for lunch. We'll go back down to the pavement, and then on the pavement we'll reconnect with our planned camp spot for tonight, and then resume from there. We reached our planned campsite for tonight. It's been very windy all afternoon and the wind is still blowing, but here we seem to be sheltered somewhat. Cathy isn't feeling well. She went for a nap. A few days ago, once we got back to civilization and more maintained roads, I came down with a cold. It lasted only a day or so and I was really feeling down, tired, and I had a non-stop runny nose. Cathy got the same thing 2-3 days later, but it seems worse for her. She's had a sore throat, runny nose, and today she's really tired and without any energy. So hopefully tomorrow she'll wake up feeling better. We're still 2-3 days away from home, but maybe that's part of it. It's been a stressful trip. Maybe we didn't realize at the time, but I built a fire ring and gathered some dead wood, hoping that tonight we'll be able to make a fire, but the wind will have to settle a little bit more. We are camped just outside the village of Angualasto in the province of San Juan. Angualasto is the name of the Aboriginal people who established the site around the year 1000, 1100 of our era. So they were pre-Incas. They built their houses out of mud, so unfortunately today there isn't much left standing. Katie slept well. She still has a sore throat, runny nose and a headache, so she took a couple of Advils again this morning. I offered to get on the highway and drive straight home, which we could do in one day, but she said she wants to continue with the plan. So this morning we'll get back on the highway. We'll drive through 3-4 small villages and then get on a gravel road that is pretty much level and wide and visible, so no challenges. But then we'll get onto a faint track across the desert for about 10 kilometers, and that will take us to the site of hongos blancos, which means white mushrooms. It's a place that's very isolated and has interesting white rock formations.
Good morning to you. Good morning to you.
We didn't use the 20-liter diesel reserve, so I'm going to pour it into the tank. This particular jerry can is actually quite nice. It's the best I found so far. It has a slim profile that fits nicely on our roof rack. It is all metal construction. We've been carrying it around full to the brim and it hasn't leaked a drop. They're really high quality. They are marine grade. The manufacturer is Kushiro. Someone generously left a very nice fire ring and a pile of firewood fairly close to our camp, so we're going to take advantage of it. We brought wine, bread, goat cheese, and we are going to eat by the fire. Well guys, this is the end of the last episode of the series on our Atacama, Argentina expedition. I thank you very much for watching so far. It's not quite over yet. I will do a follow-up episode where I will talk about the planning, preparation, and basically do a review of the trip of aspects that you haven't seen in the videos so far. So stay tuned and I will see you very soon in the overview episode.